Now, the nation's favourite TV moments have been revealed, and it's every single episode of the Gadget Show ever with Jason Bradbury on it. Actually, there's a
I
load of other
wish.
stuff as well. Jason joins me now to tell me about the list. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, good. I'm hoping it won't be my funeral actually, because it seems that funerals are very, very popular. Not least Queen Elizabeth's funeral and Diana's funeral. Some of the big, most memorable moments have been those. That and Live Aid, of course,
Well,
which
yes, with the
we're
recent,
celebrating this weekend.
yeah, I've been marking of that. But yeah, but it is those moments that bring the country together, which is obviously where Queen Elizabeth II and Diana came in with their departures from this world. But there's things like the Olympics in London in 2012. That was a major TV event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the closest Olympics we've ever got in the and it became an event we all stayed at home and watched on TV, but or in the cinema in my case. But it was still a TV show on a big screen. But it's amazing when we see these things together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think often a cultural event will meld with a technology, and that's when it's a truly big moment, you know?
Hmm.
Um, the Queen's coronation being the most obvious early example. But the London 2012, I would say, I mean, this is relatively subjective. It's only my opinion. But you know the old, is it the red button? I can't remember what color the blooming button is on the BBC's output. But the ability to be able to just switch around between different races and different events. For the first time, it felt to me like it really, really worked. I know there had been other events and it was a relatively established platform by then, but that for me was one of the big things. That and the online content that was also part of that. The fact that I could go down the supermarket and I could have the radio in my pocket, or I could have some form of streaming content, and then get back to my telly, and I'd know that what was coming up, and I'd get it all on the television. Yeah, so I think that's what happens, and there are more contemporaneous examples of that. I mean, I would argue that the recent adolescence phenomenon,
Hmm.
that show caught everyone's attention, didn't it? And for a relatively short period of time, everyone was talking about it. So those culturally defining events are very important, but they need to be meshed with a capable technology. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, going to because things have moved on. I mean, you talked about the coronation. That was probably on a 9-inch screen, 200 and some odd lines potentially, and it was just about visible. Whereas you move through things like the NASA moon landings, the quality of the pictures that came back from the moon at the time weren't that great. Even England versus Germany, they think it's all over moment. Those all before our lifetimes,
Yeah.
and yeah, things that we still know about and we've seen the footage from, but it doesn't live up to the technology today. And yeah, celebrating 100 years of TV and the likes of the TVs we get these days. And I know Samsung have done this research, and the fact that you've got 4K quality as standard these days compared to
Yeah.
what it was, it is almost like having a window into the world rather than the way the pictures used to be in the past.
I remember when we got 4K into the Gadget Show studio for the first time, and there was some test footage on it, and it was a sizzling steak, and it made me salivate because it was a Pavlovian response to the pure clarity of that. Technologies like QLED, which you may or may not know, it stands for quantum dot light emitting diode, or OLED, organic light emitting diode.
But again,
Um,
we were kids. The LED, the only one of
yeah,
those anywhere near your telly was the one that displayed the numbers, and it was like the little calculator displays. That was the only LED on your
it's
telly
amazing.
back in the day.
But it is incredible that the old LED is still very much at the center of these technologies.
Hmm.
Whether it's the sort of backlit QLED screen, or the kind of blacker than blacks OLED, it's still LEDs, although an organic light emitting diode is a slightly different technology. Um, yeah, so I think quality is very much at the core of people's buying decisions, but there is something of a kind of TV tech fatigue thing happening. So the research that you mentioned from Samsung did show that almost half of UK shoppers, so 46%, said that they bought a telly without actually understanding what the technology that makes it do what it does actually does. They're sort of overwhelmed by some of the tech stuff. So if you want me to clear any of that up, I'm happy to do it.
Go on, yeah, because you're used to explaining this for people who aren't into gadgets as much as you're into gadgets.
Yeah. So okay. So you want to aim for 4K. All right.
Hmm.
There are other technologies. It goes up to 8K now. You might have noticed in the showrooms, but 4K is a really high quality standard that many of the broadcasters, even the streamers and so on and so forth, can provide content for. And it doesn't really matter how you get the content into it. It might be a Wi-Fi enabled television. It might be streaming. It might be coming through more standard mainstream media broadcast technologies and platforms. But the 4K experience is really important. It's a beautiful way to watch it, to watch a piece of content. A high refresh rate is always a good thing. I often talk about that, but that's mainly because I'm a gamer. Okay, that's normally
Hmm.
measured in hertz. So, say 120 hertz would be a really good hertz standard to have on your television. That makes it easy on the eyes, and it means that you don't get any tearing in high movement sequences. Therefore, it's good. You know, that's why it's good for gaming. And yes, and the kind of QLED OLED thing, really, I would say that's down to how, how much importance you place on the triad color, clarity, and contrast. That's what I would say in simple terms, right? So if you want more contrast, then I would argue that the blacker blacks of OLED, if you're a movie buff, for example, that's
Hmm.
where I would go. But if you want a more general, high performance experience for all kinds of environments that include kind of overly well lit environments, yeah, which I think, to be practical, many of us, that's our experience. Unless you've got blackout blinds, then QLED is a really good technology for that. So hopefully that gives you some sort of guide to some of the buzzwords that will inform a better buying decision.
People are often governed by, the thickness of the bezel around the edge of the screen, all these sort of
Yeah.
aesthetic things about the monitor that you're looking at as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's important, isn't it? The
Hmm.
industrial design of something. I mean, hence why certain phone manufacturers are so popular. Most of the phones nowadays do the same things, don't they? But a good bit of industrial design, a nice bit of aluminium, or like you say, a thin bezel can be the difference between purchasing or not, depending on how you want to use it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think the design of a television is important. I would also say the other thing to consider is sound. You know, you can't overestimate the immersive quality of a good sound system. And when a lot of the new televisions, when we changed from the cathode ray tube to flat screen through plasma up to LED and now OLED and QLED, the one of the things that wasn't initially well catered for was sound. That's not the case now. There's all sorts of really interesting sound projection technologies. But again, it's another thing to think about if you're
Hmm.
going into the market to buy a new telly.
Yeah, come you go out there, you buy your Samsung telly, you're basically putting cinema into your home these days, aren't you? So yeah, why
Absolutely.
not go for the experience? And sadly, so many people aren't going to the cinema. But when you've got a big screen at home, you don't necessarily need to, do you?
No, and you don't have a bunch of teenagers like
Throwing popcorn across your set.
yeah.
Actually, some people's households do have that group of teenagers with the food, but
Yeah, not that I'm decrying the importance of a good cinema experience. I do love that. I've actually just been working on a feature film, would you believe? A comedy set in Skegness. And
I thought you were Jason Statham's body double again.
oh, mate, God, I wish. And so I'm hoping to to find a way of putting that in a cinema. But I agree now. The best, most successful content is being screened at in people's homes, and that's why having a little bit more knowledge, maybe spending a little bit more time, and possibly a little bit more budget on the right television is really important.
And wouldn't it be great to be able to go back in time and film in HD all of those major events so we could watch them in the finest detail?
Maybe that's what we'll do in the future. Maybe we use AI to revisit this vintage material and bring it up to modern standards.
But based on the way I behaves at the moment, the Queen won't quite look like the Queen during the
No,
coronation.
no,
But we will hopefully, fingers crossed, get there. But
yeah.
it'll be interesting. And what else do you predict for the future, over the next 100 years?
Wow, over the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Good grief. That, I mean, oh my gosh, that's an incredible one. I mean, even 10 years' time, let alone 100, I think we will have bridged the gap to power and wireless data transmission that will enable us to wear headsets, augmented reality and virtual reality capable headsets that are probably in 10 years, barely any bigger than my glasses.
Back on,
And
your
that
glasses are always huge, though.
then, well, yeah, I always say, I went to the optician. I said, I'll have that pair, please. And he said, I'm sorry, sir, that's the shop window. That gives some of your listeners a sense of how big my glasses are. But yeah, we're going to be wearing that content. I would also say, with back to the AI thing, maybe personalized content,
Hmm.
perhaps. So dramas with a personalized ending, for example, where it's a kind of procedurally generated um, narrative. But also, I would also argue this, okay? And we've no, the tender age of whatever I am, 60 plus, 50 plus, um, that there will be a rollback as well. There always is. And
Hmm.
so I wouldn't, predict things too triumphantly just yet, because I do think that the traditional idea of sitting in a front room with a television is going to be popular for a couple of decades. Honestly, I do,
Hmm.
because that there is something akin to sitting around the fireside, or rather the fire in the forest back
Yeah.
in the tribal days. There's something about that communal experience that is very human, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Where can we go for more information on the survey and the tech terms from Samsung?
Well, just search Samsung how to choose a TV, and that'll give you all the information you need.
And where are we finding you in the world of media next?
Well, I suppose the most relevant thing is I'm doing a podcast, the Gadget Show podcast, and me and Susie host that. So if you're an old school gadget fan, it doesn't get much better, and it's available on any podcast platform.
Oh, Jason Bradbury, Gadget Show host, and so much more besides, including, it turns out, movie star. Thank you for joining us.
Ah, yeah, I wasn't in it. You'll be pleased to know. Hey, thank you so much.